Hey everybody, and welcome to the latest edition of The Intelligent Estate, where luxury meets smart living. I'm your host, Travis Leo, and today we're going to talk about what to look for when buying a luxury home with an existing technology system. With me today is Aaron Cowden from Fusion Audio Video in Greenville, South Carolina. Aaron is the founder and CEO of Fusion, which is a residential and commercial technology firm with offices across the Southeast, including Greenville, Asheville, and Bluffton. Aaron's very active within the CEDIA community and viewed by his peers. He brought this subject up in a meeting that we were in a few months ago, so I thought it'd be great to dedicate an episode of the podcast to this topic, as this is something that comes up very frequently. So, Aaron, first of all, welcome to the Intelligent Estate. Thank you for being here.
Thanks.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about Fusion and your work in the luxury residential space?
Yeah, so thanks for having me, Travis. Fusion is a technology integrator. We operate throughout the Southeast, but mostly in South Carolina and North Carolina. We've been in business for about 23 years. I mean, really our specialty is handling technology systems in someone's home or business. So whatever that technology might be, it could be audio, video, networking, golf simulators, lighting control, voice control, even just their basic computer systems. And then in businesses, we get into conference rooms, boardrooms, building security, access control. Just try to be the technology helpers for the clients that come to us.
So obviously, being in business for as long as you have, you've probably seen some of these homes that you've built or that you've been part of on the initial construction trade hands a number of times. Second owners come in, initial owners move out. So when someone is buying a existing luxury home that has a technology package in it, what should they be evaluating? What should they be looking at? What should they be considering when they're trying to determine, is this a good thing that I've got this technology package? Or, hey, this thing's 15 years old. Do I need to be putting some money aside to upgrade it as I get into this house?
It could definitely be a gotcha, this category. So we have customers that come to us that have bought a home and they're completely surprised by what they need to do to get the system up to speed. So it's really surprising to me how many technology systems we encounter are not properly maintained. Homeowners should think about these systems like they do their HVAC system or their car. They need regular maintenance, firmware updates, physical cleaning, battery swaps in devices, network security upgrades. So there's a lot of things that need to be done on an ongoing basis. So I would say something that's really important for them to do is to ask the right questions when they first are looking at a home that has a technology system in it.
What questions would you advise them to be asking? And who should they be asking those questions of?
Well, I think they start by talking to the homeowner and what their experience has been with the system. They've been happy with it. Have they been frustrated? How's their current technology partner handle system maintenance and the ongoing relationship? Who is the technology partner? Is there a maintenance plan in place? What are the monthly costs for maintenance or subscriptions? Sometimes those can be hidden costs that customers don't think of that they're going to have to pay on an ongoing basis. Are there systems that are not working or in need of repair? One important thing is there documentation? Does the homeowner have the programming info for the system? We've certainly run into those situations where we're asked to come in and service a customer's home and they end up trying to chase down the programming just so we can make edits and upgrades for them.
What other type of documentation should I be looking for if I'm buying a high-end home that's got a centralized distribution system in it or a centralized lighting system? What besides the programming?
So the best, most well-documented systems out there are going to have signal flow diagrams. They'll have a floor plan layout with all of the different technology systems in there. They'll have warranty and maintenance information on all of the devices. But you'll find that most homes don't have the proper level of documentation in place. So get whatever documentation that the customer can provide you, and then maybe see if you can reach out to the technology partner to ask them some additional questions.
So if I was buying a house in your market and I knew that Fusion had done the technology package. Is that a weird call if I just pick up the phone and call Fusion and say, hey, I'm buying this house at 555 Main Street and I see your logo on the equipment racks?
Not for us. We love that. We love to get that early introduction to the customers so we can help them transition into the home comfortably with setting expectations. I mean, we really try hard to set expectations at Fusion. So we welcome those calls. And even if we didn't install the current system, we do system evaluations on homes out there. So we'll have customers call us and just mention that there's a technology system in a home they're looking at that we didn't install. And so we have an adoption program that I'm sure other integrators have, where we will come into the home and kind of do a do now, do soon, do later report for the customer, and to help them understand, hey, what's critical? What really needs to happen right away? Here's some things that you should keep your eye on. You don't have to do them right now, but definitely plan for them down the road. And then the do later is just advice on upgrades and other phased improvements that we could do down the road.
So you get that call and you come in and you do that assessment. First of all, are you going to charge that client for that assessment, or are you doing that, in an attempt to get business?
It depends on the individual situation. So it's case by case. We do have a charge for program. If it's a smaller system, a lot of times we will do that at no cost. But if it's a really large integrated home, while we could offer the service for free, and we do at times, to get the absolute best analysis of what's going on in a home, you might need to have someone more than just a salesperson come by and take a look. And that's where we'll actually schedule a technician for a half day or a full day to do a full system analysis and provide a detailed report. And for that, we do charge.
That makes a lot of sense to me, as opposed to sending a surface level person. Nothing against a salesperson. But if you've got a luxury technology system in a home, and I'm buying that home for $3, $4, $10 million, pick your number, I'm willing to spend a couple $1,000s to make sure
Absolutely.
I understand what I've got. And I love your notion of do now, must do later, nice to do. If you can lay it out for me in those simple terms, it makes it real easy for me to say, okay, in order to get it running, I need to do this. And then here's what I need to be thinking about over the next 10 years that I'm going to live in this home.
Yeah, we've definitely seen where customers that aren't willing to spend that time on really evaluating it will end up in a situation where they have some surprises. And we can hopefully help them navigate that and avoid some of those surprises or plan for them.
So when you think about systems that you've installed over the past years and the lifespan of those systems, whether it be lighting or audio or video or shades, how should I as a homeowner think about the lifespan of those technologies? And I realize that's a loaded question because there's probably a lot of different answers, but how would you advise somebody who's just bought that home and is saying, hey, let's just say it's a 10-year-old home. What do I need to think about changing, upgrading? What's on my do now and what's on my do later list?
Yeah, so we get that question a lot. I'm buying this 10-year-old house. Do I need to just gut the system and start over? And that's not necessarily the case. It really depends on the current state of the system. So there are a lot of foundational systems that we've had out there that are running 7, 10, 15, even 20 years, and they're still quite stable because they've been maintained. So they really need to look at the do now things as being the items that wear out the fastest. So when we think about that, all electronics naturally fail, which is why most electronics warranties are a year or less. There are companies out there that back their products longer, but that seems to kind of be like an industry norm. So your shortest lived lifecycle products would really be like Wi-Fi devices, your network, voice assistants, the main controllers or the brain of the smart systems. All of those things, I would put those kind of in the 3 to 5 year category.
Okay.
At 3, you could start thinking about it because there's probably some technology enhancements that you're missing out on. The performance is probably starting to degrade of your Wi-Fi network, or maybe even your smart home controller is running a little slow. So in that 3 to 5 year range is where it starts to get interesting, but it's not required. And then outside of that, really we tell our customers when we're building and designing a whole home technology system, 7 to 10 years is kind of that lifespan range. And again, that doesn't mean everything expires at that time. We have a lot of customers with systems running much longer than that, but that's where the upgrades start to become substantial improvements in performance, features, and stability.
So it sounds like it's less about sort of obsolescence and more about better quality, whether it be 4K TV or Wi-Fi 6 or Wi-Fi 7, or pick your Wi-Fi number that we're on today. Yeah, I could probably continue to limp along with my 720p TV for another 10 years if I want to.
Plasma
but
as long as you want.
but when I want to watch the Ryder Cup in 4K, I'm going to be kind of screwed. What are some of the systems that may have longer lifespans? Longer than 7 to 10 years.
Well, TVs, I mean, I'm sure a lot of us have TVs that have been around 10 plus years. I mean, a lot of TVs run for quite some time, but you'd start missing out on those technology enhancements. Foundational items like amplifiers seem to be pretty stable unless you have an electronics failure. But smart lighting control systems, I mean, those can have a 15, 20-year lifespan on them. And then, of course, the infrastructure that you're putting in the house, like the wiring, that really doesn't expire. So you're going to have foundational things like infrastructure wiring, your wall mounts, your racking systems, core components like battery backups that might just need battery changes every 3 to 5 years. But the core technology there, the big expense of that core technology can just be maintained.
Going back to your earlier comment on maintenance, how much of an increase in lifespan will I see on these various systems if I maintain the system properly? So if I, have it updated periodically, quarterly or annually or whatever it might be with one of the plans that you offer, can I expect to take a 5-year, sort of lifespan and turn it into 6, 7, or am I going to get 15 out of something like that?
I think it really depends on the technology we're talking about. From an electronics stability standpoint, your electronics not being covered in dust, being cleaned and updated makes a big difference. Having them plugged into battery backups and online UPSs that give them clean power, that's definitely going to extend the life of the system. Really, the maintenance plans are partially about the cleaning and stability of the product, but also about keeping them up to date, keeping them current, like networking devices especially. You want those security protocols applied. You want those security cameras to have those potential hacking abilities updated so they're secure.
How often do you go into a home that might be 5, 10 years old and see that the original equipment has never been updated, firmwares haven't been patched, new operating systems haven't been put in? Are you seeing that happen a fair amount where people just aren't maintaining and updating these systems as necessary?
It's very common.
Really?
Very, very common. Yeah. We have a whole system adoption process just for that, just for bringing new clients into the Fusion family and evaluating systems installed by others that a lot of times aren't maintained. It's an unfortunate, but many consumers view buying technology as a transactional thing, a one-time thing. I'm going to buy some TVs and some speakers from you and then write you a check, you're going to finish the job and off into the sunset. That's unfortunately, there's a large part of our industry that hasn't done a good job of educating a customer that these things need ongoing maintenance and they will break. If you're talking to a technology provider that's promising you it's all going to be stable and perfect, run. Because they should be honest with you. And it's just a requirement. And there's a lot of companies out there that don't do a good job of underlining that and educating the client.
We just bought our son. He turned 16 in a couple of weeks. We bought him a new car, and I was really impressed. Well, we bought him a used car, but we bought it from a dealership. And I was really impressed that the dealership wasn't focused on the price of the car. They were talking about the total cost of ownership of this vehicle over the next 3 to 5 years. And it was very refreshing to me to see that it wasn't just, hey, what's it going to take to get you into this car today? It's, hey, you have to think about the ongoing periodic maintenance and oil changes and 100,000 mile service and the like. And that it was very different than it was 10 years ago, the last time I bought a car. I think you're saying the same things in terms of the technology packages. Customers need to look at this in terms of the total cost of ownership as opposed to, what's the bottom line number when I'm building that home and stroking that check as part of the construction project.
And we're even doing creative things kind of mimicking what you see in the car industry now. We're offering lease programs. We're offering ongoing lease programs in businesses and residences where we guarantee that your technology stays up to date. So you literally know your cost of ownership, your ongoing cost of ownership. So rather than purchasing the system from us, we give you an ongoing monthly or quarterly fee, and that guarantees that when that new tech comes out in 3 years, we literally just put it in for you,
So,
and you just keep going.
so tell me a little bit more about that. I don't, because I don't know of anybody else that's doing that on a regular basis. Is that something that you guys decided to do because you thought it'd be fun and interesting, or was it something that your clients were asking you for, and you sort of adopted it as part of your business?
So it's an emerging offering for us. It's relatively new, but what we were looking at is just overall client satisfaction. The fact that the tendency was at that 3 or 5 year or 7 year mark to just put band-aids on it and keep going because the clients didn't want another large expense. They don't want to spend that extra money on replacing everything. So giving someone that total cost of ownership picture that they can look out and say, hey, the technology in my home is going to be updated for the next 5 to 10 years and is going to be solid. When Wi-Fi 8 comes out, I get it. When KTVs are all over the place, I get that technology. When the control system company releases new remotes or new touchscreens or a new, faster, better brain, I get that technology and I don't have to stroke a check because I've committed to having this ongoing relationship. And so we roll everything into that. We roll maintenance and upgrades and everything.
So you've almost made it kind of AV as a service, or
AV as a
technology as a
service.
service type of model.
Technology as a
Oh.
service. That's exactly right. It's much more commonplace on the commercial side, but we're really trying hard to bring it into the residential space because we feel like the homeowners would benefit from not having to wonder what those costs are down the road or pay for those repair costs.
And in these large scale residences, 10, 15,000 square feet, they practically are commercial environments for all intents
Yeah.
and purposes, aren't they?
Yeah, very, very much so. And they're very large systems that need that ongoing maintenance and could benefit from various upgrades as they come out.
Let's talk about a couple systems you may not have mentioned. What about a security system? If I put a security system in when I build my home, how often do I need to think about swapping that out? Or certainly I need to keep it updated, particularly from an intrusion detection standpoint. But a lot of wiring there that you said is in pretty good shape. How should I think about that lifespan of that type of system?
Yeah, security is one that definitely lasts a very, very long time. The approach to burglary and fire, the technology approach hasn't really changed much over the last 30, 40 years, quite frankly. I mean, yes, we have nicer touchscreens and some better devices, but the overall technology is pretty stable. What we're seeing with security changing from contacts on the doors and motion detectors and glass breaks is really the emergence of AI analysis of video on security cameras, and the fact that we can really reduce false positives on alarms by knowing what's going on at the house, in the yard, in that area that there was an alarm for, with video verification.
So that's probably a good example of a system that probably needs replacement a little more often, right? With a surveillance system where if you've got AI built into cameras now, the 720 camera that I installed 6 years ago probably isn't current, and I can get a lot more functionality and features out of something newer. Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. Cameras is another technology that I think is very stable. And if you don't want to, you don't have to replace them for many, many years. But what is changing is that resolution, and the ability for us to overlay AI on top and analyze what's going on.
You mentioned a centralized lighting system, so a Lutron lighting system, for example. What about the shades that go along with that? How often do I need to think about swapping those out?
I mean, that's really another long-term product that we very infrequently do we go in and replace all the shades in somebody's home. They're usually there for the life of the home. So I would say the shades kind of goes with the lighting control, and that it's a pretty stable technology that doesn't need updating very often. I mean, yeah, if you did a battery version of shades, you might need to update the batteries or replace them from time to time. But overall, they're pretty stable.
That battery goes back to your periodic maintenance if you're keeping the periodic maintenance up to date. Is that part of your offering that you guys do on periodic maintenance? If you have battery powered shades or remotes or whatever it is, you're going in and replacing all the batteries proactively?
Yeah, we're replacing them or recharging them. And you look at things like battery backup UPSs, there's an expiration date on those rechargeable batteries. So we'll swap those out in the chassis during those maintenance visits.
So let's talk about the process for people that are buying that home. So I go in and I'm working with my realtor and we walk through this $10 million home that I really, really like and my wife loves it. And I see that it's got technology. I'm going to ask my realtor, well, who should I call? What my realtor's probably going to say, well, I don't know. What are they going to tell? What are they going to tell me? Are realtors good resources when it comes to technology in the home?
I mean, realtors are fantastic marketers of homes, but they really shouldn't be relied on as technology experts. They're going to have limited understandings of a home's full tech setup. I mean, if they're representing the sellers, they may want to avoid a deep dive because of some hidden issues that can complicate negotiations and increase costs. And then you think about home inspectors. I mean, home inspectors really don't have the expertise to analyze complex tech. You can get a home inspector that's more specialized in luxury homes, so they'll have a little bit more attention to these details. But even then, a dedicated technology professional is going to give you the best view of what's going on in the home.
Have you seen any residential inspectors that have deep technology experience?
Very rare. Very rare. There are some companies out there that market themselves that way, but it's extremely rare. I mean, most of the time you get paired with a home inspector by your mortgage company or by your bank, and it's just a connection. And there's a very simple list that they go through. I shouldn't say simple, but there's a specific kind of list that they go through, and not included in that is evaluating the stability of the technology system in the home.
Do you guys ever get involved in the evaluation of a technology system as part of the transaction? You mentioned people will call you after they buy the home all the time, but can I call you and say, hey, I'm evaluating buying this house. Will you come in and do an inspection just like I would pay somebody to do the inspection of the foundation or the drywall or the like?
Absolutely. We're actually trying to foster this more and build these relationships more with realtors so we can be those good tech resources. But there is that challenge of if it's the selling agent not wanting to scare away the buyer, of course, which is we're going to bring up issues that need to be addressed.
That's no different. I mean, I think you're doing a service there. That's no different than if the house has a pool and they bring an inspector out and the inspector says, oh yeah, the pool's fine. And then 3 months later, there's a $50,000, the pump was broken or something like that. They did it to just, process the transaction as opposed to do the customer a service to say, here's what you really need to do in order to get this up to speed.
Yeah, in these large estates, it's really something that should be thought of intentionally to serve the client better and to set them up for not having surprises.
When you see these homeowners move into a new home, whether it's a home that you had previously done or whether they call you, what are some of the mistakes that you see people make when they acquire those larger homes that have the technology systems in them?
So again, I'll go back to the consumers thinking of it as a transactional relationship where they haven't done regular maintenance. Don't assume everything's going to work without a professional evaluation. A good way to trigger whether you might want to dig a little deeper on that is, does the home have a large rack system that's holding the technology? If it does, that's probably a good sign it's an extensive system that would require thorough review. So I would take the time to actually seek out either the provider for the home and check the reviews, or find one that can handle it third party.
Within this industry, there's different levels of companies. How can I ensure that if I'm contacting you, and obviously you guys have been in business for, how many years have you been in business?
23.
23 years. You've worked on estate level projects. You're well known across that. But how can I be sure that I'm dealing with somebody like Fusion as opposed to a referral for a single provider that might or might not have experience in a system, but gets these dollar signs in their eyes because they see that it's a $10 million home and they say, oh, I can go and do that?
Well, you'd have to learn to ask some questions to really dig into what their business looks like. There are plenty of small integrators that might do a good job, but understand, first of all, does the company you're calling, do they have a dedicated service department? What's their approach to service? Do they offer maintenance and support plans? Those could be warning signs if they don't have a dedicated service department and don't think about and offer maintenance and ongoing support plans, then they might not have the expertise to think about how to maintain a large luxury system on an ongoing basis. You can also look at various industry resources out there. Like I know like HTA is one that does some certifying. There's certainly the CEDIA membership, but that could also include you can run into some bad actors in there at times. So you just need to do your research and check the reviews. Definitely check the reviews and interview the owner though.
Yeah, when I was looking at your website prior to doing this, you guys put your reviews first and foremost there, and it's very clear that you guys know what you're doing and you're a credible organization in the Southeast area there. So
there's also some great integrator groups out there like ProSource that really does a good job of training and keeping their membership up to date and qualifying them. So ProSource is a good one, Azione, HTSA, there's a couple out there. Of course, there's also the Synergy Technology Group, which is a great group of 50 really strong companies. Try to stay in the network of companies that have been around for a while and have staying power and aren't going to disappear tomorrow.
And it would seem like if I'm qualifying you on your website and I don't see things like service plans or service department or maintenance, that might be a little bit of a red flag that I'm dealing with somebody that may not have as much experience in the high-end space. Is that true?
Absolutely. But dig into what a service department means to the individual company, because a lot of people you talk to may say they have a service department, but it may be the situation where it's robbing Peter to pay Paul. So their idea of service is, I've got to go pull John off Mr. Jones's house so I can take care of the Carters, whereas at our company and many of the other membership companies of some of those organizations I mentioned, they actually set aside a team of technicians and leadership to run service full time, to take care of their customers, to be there for them after the sale.
To your point earlier, technology systems are evolving, living, breathing organisms, and they are going to have challenges and problems. And so you need to expect that, and it's a matter of how quickly does the company deal with it when such an issue arises.
That's your number one warning sign in the sales cycle, is if the guy sitting across from you says, this is going to be perfect, it's never going to break, you're going to love it. I don't know what those fusion guys are talking about, but we build rock solid, perfect systems. So just run for the hills if that's the line.
When you're evaluating the system in a home that somebody has either just purchased or is in the process of purchasing, is there anything that you would look at and say, ooh, geez, that's a liability and something that you need to immediately change out, or else, hey, we may not want to be involved with this home or this customer going forward?
Well, I've mentioned it a few times, but weak or outdated network security, that's a huge warning sign. I mean, the network system is the foundation of the technology system in a home. And if it's not properly maintained, not only will the overall technology in the home not perform well, you're open to hacks. And that could be in the form of your personal information or people viewing your personal cameras. That's definitely a warning sign, is a poorly maintained or not even implemented security networking system. Outdated automation systems. So understand, what is the control system that's in the house? Is it Control4, Crestron, Savant? Or is it something that doesn't even exist anymore, like Colorado VNet or X10? There's a bunch of others I could name, but if it's an outdated automation system, you are certainly in a situation where you're going to have trouble getting service. Look for anything that has old legacy video connections. Maybe it's the house is all on component video or an old HDMI technology. That's something that could get expensive in those situations where you decide, hey, I really want 4K on the porch. Well, sorry, Mr. Homeowner, you have component video distribution throughout your entire house. That's going to be a significant upgrade. So yeah, those would be some of the things that I think might be liabilities.
I smiled when you said Colorado VNet. We had a lot of those systems in this market, being in the Colorado market. And I'll never forget walking a home with a guy who had just bought a really nice home up in Fort Collins area, and that had, after he closed on it, he realized he had a non-functioning, non-working Colorado VNet system. And he had probably just spent, I don't know, $4 or $5 million on this home. And I had to tell him that you need to replace this system immediately because you can't get parts for it. It's not functioning. The brains of the system were just completely dead. The processor was completely dead. And there was just this, I mean, there was almost a tear in the poor guy's eye because nobody had told him that prior to buying that. He had found us online and called us and wanted a technology assessment. And at the time, this was 10 years ago probably, that was a $60,000 Lutron upgrade that he probably could have worked into the price of the home that he was buying if he had made that phone call up front. So I think there's probably a lesson to be learned there of call a technology professional before you buy the home or make an offer on the home and negotiate that in there. Do you see that happening frequently when people are doing that, or are people just sort of saying, yeah, I'll deal with it later?
It doesn't happen as often as it should before the buy. It's usually after. And it makes me think of another really good qualifier for who you choose as your technology provider is the control system that's in the home. Typically, technology providers only do one or a few versions of control systems. So if you come talk to Fusion and you say, hey, I've got Colorado VNet in my house, we're going to tell you right away, well, not only is it expired, discontinued, but we don't have programmers on staff for that. So you want to make sure a technology provider that you're talking to has the staff to work on the systems that you have in there. You know, if you're going into a home and it has a Savant system, make sure you're interviewing Savant technology providers because those are the guys you're going to have to work with to maintain that system. Same for Crestron, Control4, or any of the other platforms.
Do you see, when you talk about the various automation platforms, Crestron, Savant, Control4, Lutron, do you see any difference in terms of longevity or I guess longevity is the right word, between the systems, the life of the processors, the life of the equipment, or are they all kind of about the same?
I would say they're all about the same. It just depends on how fast they're innovating and improving. So some of them you may want to consider those controller upgrades more often because the performance increase will come. But overall, I think they're pretty in line with each other between those three.
If I call you call Fusion to come out and assess a home that I'm looking at buying, and let's just use some round numbers, it's a 10,000 square foot, $5 million home. What should I think about how much that's going to cost me to get that inspection done by an expert in your organization?
So we offer half day and full day plans, and it's, you know, usually that's based on sending a technician out to do that evaluation. So if it's a half day, they'll spend a half day at the house, and then they'll come back and work with our design and engineering team to spend another half day kind of putting the reports together. So I think you're going to start on the low end around $1,200, and it could go all the way up to about $3-4 grand depending on the size of the system. Of course, you get into something more expansive like a 15, 20, 30,000 square foot house. You're going to want to dedicate more time to that to make sure that all of those systems are really stable, because that's where it could get really expensive really fast.
But I'm spending a couple $1,000s to get an expert out for a half a day or a full day to really take inventory and assess what I've got and what I need to do. That seems like a pretty good use of a few dollars. I mean, I'm likely going to do the same thing with the other subsystems, like you said, the HVAC system or the electrical system. Spending that money for the technology system seems like something that gets often overlooked, yet is a real good use of a couple $1,000s.
Yeah, just make sure you know what the deliverable is. What are they going to hand you at the end? Is it, you know, you don't want it to just be a technician comes out and, you know, writes a few things down on a paper that you need to do. Make sure they're going to give you some good reporting and they have some good deliverables to go with it.
What are you guys going to give your clients for that the full day package? What kind of deliverables are you going to give them if they contract you to do that inspection?
They're going to get an inventory of the system, so the components that are installed with model numbers, and then they're going to get that do now report, which will break down system by system the things that are required for us to adopt their system. So that's part of what we do is we say, in order for us to have a great relationship with you throughout the life of your home, you're going to have to do these things now, but that'll get you to a stable point. And then we're going to give them also those other pieces that do soon. You don't have to do this, but here's some ideas of some things you should keep an eye on. And then, of course, the do later is upgrades and ideas, like cool stuff. I'm like, you could do a 8K TV out on that porch. You could really improve your landscape audio system by switching speaker technology. So we're going to go through all three of those things: do now, do soon, do later, along with an inventory.
I'm guessing your clients really appreciate that approach, because as somebody who's bought a home fairly recently, when you buy that new home, the dollars add up, right? All these different things, you've got new furniture, whatever the case is. And so if somebody comes out and says, here's your technology system, and here's everything that you can do, that's probably a pretty big number that you may not be willing to bite off right at that point in time. So I assume your clients really like your do now, do soon, do later, because it doesn't appear that you're trying to sell them something. You're doing them a service of saying, hey, you need to do this, but this other stuff, just be aware of this, and you can wait on that if you need to.
And if you do it early enough, you might be able to roll it into your mortgage.
Good point. All right, so I guess as we kind of start to wrap up here, if there was one piece of advice that you could give to realtors, homeowners, anybody in this kind of custom luxury residential space when it comes to technology, what would you tell them to do when it comes to buying and looking at a technology system in a home that they're evaluating?
Find one or a few good technology providers in your market, interview them, understand their companies, their approach to service, build a relationship with them, and bring them in as early as you can to the process of buying or selling a home.
Well, Aaron, thank you for being here today. I'll put your firm's contact information in the show notes as well as on the screen here. So if any of our listeners are in the greater Southeast area and have questions or looking at buying a new home, we'll certainly encourage them to contact you. But thanks for being a thought leader in the space, and thanks for being with us on The Intelligent Estate today.
Thanks for having me, Travis. Appreciate it.